My name is Rohil Deshpande, and when I'm asked to introduce myself, I say a lot of things. I say that I'm into public speaking, that I'm into debating. I say that I'm an aspiring lawyer. And I can say all of these things because 3 years ago, I attended my first Model UN conference. And today, that's what I want to talk about, Model UN in India. You see, it was Model UN that set me on this brilliant course. It helped me discover things in me I didn't know existed. It helped me improve myself a lot. And Model UN right now provides self-improvement opportunities and the exposure, which is unparalleled, at least at the high school level. And Model UN has become such a huge occurrence in India. Conferences take place all the time, all over the country. But you see so many kids attending so many conferences all across the country, but they have nothing to show for it. They gain nothing. And that's a problem. Now, before I go into any specifics about the problems of Model UN and how we can overcome them, I think it's necessary to first describe what a typical Model UN conference looks like. Right. Now, a general definition of a Model UN, which describes everything it is to everything that it can do for a student, will likely go as follows. Model UN is an academic simulation of the United Nations designed to help students better understand diplomacy, international relations, and the working of the United Nations itself, while also acquiring skills such as, and this is the important part, public speaking, debating, writing, critical thinking, teamwork, and leadership. In a typical conference, students gather in various committees, and each of them are assigned one particular country, much like the United Nations itself. And they pick up one pertinent global issue, and they debate and discuss over it from the point of view of the country assigned to them, and then try and come to a consensus about that issue as a committee in order to solve it. A very pivotal factor, a very important factor here, as we'll see later during this talk, is the role of the executive board. The executive board is basically the group of students who presides over the whole conference, the whole committee, and who are in charge of the debate and who lead the committee into a meaningful direction. And at the end of 3 grueling days, after all the mediation and the debate, you can reasonably expect the students to have gained something at the end of it. Those 6 skills that we just identified. And those are all skills that are highly valued in society because they make someone a better citizen. And that's what a Model UN conference can do. That's what, as I like to think at least, it did for me. But that's not what happens to everyone. Once again, coming right back to where we started from, you see so many kids attending so many conferences all over the world, sometimes traveling over half the world for some of them, but not gaining anything from them, not learning. They have nothing to show for that conference. Why is that? Why couldn't they improve? What inhibited their growth and transformation? Well, I started asking this question about 2 years ago, and I started asking them to everyone, a lot of people actively involved in the Model UN community. And after these 2 years and a lot of debating and discussion, I've come to identify 3 major factors as to why students don't derive the maximum potential benefit out of Model UN conferences. Now, the first factor, as you'll see right here, does not relate to the first timers at all. Rather, it's about the experienced delegates. Experienced, of course, because they've, attended a lot of conferences. These are the people who are supposed to know everything there is to know about Model UN, who understand all of its little nuances and its intricacies, and who, perhaps most importantly, end up on the executive board and influencing the next set of delegates. And here's the thing. A lot of them attend Model UN conferences for all the wrong reasons. The only thing on their mind, the only thing that they gun for is that award at the end of 3 days. How many awards have I won? How many conferences have I attended? Have I attended more conferences than that guy sitting right next to me? Those are the sort of questions they ask. And their mindset is definitely not on self-improvement. Their mindset is based on that number. And a logical follow-up question here to ask is, why? Why is their mindset like this? Why isn't their mindset focused on self-improvement? Because Model UN, in the end, is an educational tool. And to answer that question most effectively, I drew up a parallel that I drew up about 2 years ago, and I think it's very interesting because it describes this current problem that we have at Model UN almost perfectly, and it's related to video game addiction. Now, who here knows why people are addicted to video games? One person right there, thank you. Is it because the video game is simply that fun? There's actually a much deeper reason involved. You see, a study conducted at the University of Rochester finds that video games today, most of them, cater to certain basic psychological needs of a person. Think about it. As you move through the obstacles, as you garner more levels, acquire more skills, become better at something, move up that ladder, you feel like you've really achieved something. And your sense of achievement bloats up, even in real life. And here's the sad part. It's very easy to get lost in this bloated up sense of achievement. Obviously, this is a very dangerous and slippery slope to go down on. Unfortunately, this is exactly what is happening with Model UN today. All of these awards, that number of conferences someone's attended, all of them have the same sad tendency to bloat up a person's sense of achievement, even in real life. And at some deep psychological level, we start attaching our self-worth to that number. Now, here's the obvious thing. The world outside does not care about how many awards you've won. The world outside does not care about how many conferences you've attended. The world outside cares about what you learned from each of these conferences, the skills that you acquired, and how you are now better equipped to deal with the problems of real life. Because Model UN, at its most fundamental and core level, still remains today just an educational tool. It's a stepping stone to do something better later in life. And there's no such thing as a Model UN career, unlike popular notions. The second problem you'll see right here is very obvious to anyone who's ever attended a Model UN conference before. This is when Model UN conferences end up becoming nothing more than just a social event. I mean, you've seen how the story plays out. There's kids sitting at the back of committee, happily texting away, waiting for the one thing that they came for. The delegate dance, of course. Right. And here's the thing. This is an obvious problem because those kids are never going to better themselves in the foreseeable future. Their mindset is definitely not focused on self-improvement. And this is lost potential. And that's a sad undertone about all these problems that we face with Model UN today. Lost potential. Now, the third problem that you'll see right there relates to poorly organized conferences. This happens due to the fact that there's a huge explosion in the number of Model UN conferences being held in India today. This conference is happening everywhere, and at some level, poorly organized conferences are bound to happen. This happens when conference organizers have nowhere near the requisite skill or experience to pull off a good conference or create an environment where healthy, solid debate can be encouraged. This is especially problematic if you consider the first-timers who attend some of these conferences, because now the image of Model UN set in their mind is that of that poorly organized conferences, and now they're going to think that yes, all Model UNs are exactly like that. And those are all of the problems, those are all three problems that we face with Model UN today. And they're all very deep-rooted and fundamental problems. So what can we do about these problems? Two very important things. The first thing relates to the pivotal role and the important role of the executive board as we established earlier during this talk. Think about it. The first thing that a first-timer sees once they go to that conference is that executive board. And the executive board can really do one of two things. A, it can create an image of Model UN where they really inspire someone to do better. Or B, they can create an environment where the Model UN conference is just another social event. And here's the thing. Good chairs can and do inspire people to do better. I had the privilege of being under one of the best chairs in India at my first Model UN conference 3 years ago. And I hate to imagine, what if? What if it were just somebody else who couldn't care less of what became of me? I'd be a different person today altogether. I probably wouldn't be up on the stage right now. You need good chairs to really inspire people to do better, and that will have profound effects in that person's life later on. The second thing that we can do as a community is that we can attach a responsibility to that name or to that tag of Model UN. Think about it. We need to create a responsibility so that as an organizer, the onus lies on you to make sure that your conference has a healthy environment where debate can be properly held. And this is especially important considering the huge number of Model UN conferences happening in India right now. And those are all the things that we can do about Model UN, and that brings us to the end of this talk. Craig Valentine, 2003 world champion of public speaking, is very fond of saying in his speeches, "Never let the good come in the way of the best. Never let the good come in the way of the best. That's a very deep and profound thought. Model UN in India right now is this good. But together, if we identify all of its problems and try and think about them a little more, we can bring it up here. Never let the good come in the way of the best. Thank you very much.